Hey everybody, welcome back to the shop. It's June 27th, 2020, and I've got a flea market finds episode for you today. And this is going to be a machinist tool pick. It's an honest to goodness estate. Finally was able to find something online. This was a Craigslist pick. Gentleman had taken a photograph of several plastic trays full of stuff that he had put out on a table, various machinist items. He didn't really go into detail on what was there as far as brand name or actual list of items, and just wanted an offer on them. So a real fishing expedition there. So kind of hard, to figure out what to put for an offer on something like that. And most guys are going to put pretty low offers because they just don't know for sure what's there. So I reached out to this individual to see whether or not he'd be interested in allowing me to come out and see physically what was there. Because I mean, for instance, hey, you see a keyless chuck? Well, that's fine and dandy. If it's an all bricked, you got a pretty nice chuck there, possibly, depending on the condition of it. If it's a cheap import, not so much. Same thing with a bunch of the other items I saw there, So, end result was, initially he didn't want to do that, but I guess after a few days of probably getting either no offers or some pretty lousy offers, he finally agreed to meet with me. So as soon as I called him and spoke with him, I realized this is an older gentleman. He's retired. He's getting rid of his tools, and he doesn't want a bunch of strangers coming in and out of his house that he doesn't know. So he felt confident, I guess, in what I had to say, confident enough to allow me to come meet him and take a look at what he had. Of course, we took all the COVID-19 precautions, and I went out there, checked everything out. We went, back and forth, talked about the things. Told me he did have one other offer. Told me the offer he had was $400. I said, well, was the offer, the $400 offer, from somebody who had come out here in person and looked at everything? He admitted to me no. So I said, well, so the reality is, once they come out here, the offer, it might change. I said, to be honest with you, I was looking at everything here. I can't do 400. I was going to offer you 350. And he said, I just really want to sell it. We came to terms at 350, and I am now the proud owner of this lot of stuff we're going to go through right now. But first, I stopped at a used tool store that's not in the area. This was out near where the pick was. I was running a little early, and rather than show up ahead of schedule, I decided to just pop into this used tool store that I had been to in the past and hadn't been there in quite a few years. I was kind of actually surprised he was still open, just because with the COVID thing, it's really affecting a lot of businesses. Long story short, I actually made a small pick there of a couple items, and we're just going to blow those out real quick, and hopefully, and then we'll get into the machinist tool pick, and that'll probably close out in part one. This is probably going to be a multi-part because we've got a few things to go through. So I'm walking around this tool store, and I see this old toolbox, and the lid's open, and I happen to spot in the top of the old toolbox, I spot this torque wrench. And I was like, oh, I've got my Craftsman. I've got a couple of torque wrenches now, but the one that I use the most probably of this size is my Craftsman one. And the thing that's always bugged me about the Craftsman one is that it's hard to read the numbers. It's the style, it's got a little window that you look through and you can see the numbers as they go by, but the window is part of the rubber molded handle on it, and it's always getting out of position, and it's a pain in the butt to read. So I happened to spot this one, and I was like, oh, okay, this has got the more straightforward type of gauge on it and setting like I have on my other one, which basically, to unlock it, you just pull back on this spring-loaded sleeve, and this rotates, right? So this makes it really nice and easy. But I was like, well, is it of any decent quality? So I happened to look at it, and I could see this logo on here, which is a U, a space with TI, and then a space with the CA. Put it all together, and you get Utica. So it's like, oh, is that New York? And no, it's Utica SC, which must be South Carolina. It actually says Orangeburg SC. And this is a model TCI or TC1 FRN or 150 FRN. So it's probably a max 150 foot-pound torque wrench. So the next question is, does it still work? Of course, the ratchet, that's easy enough to test. But he had a bench vise there, and I asked him, I said, if I could use the bench vise. And he said, well, it's not for sale. And I said, no, I just want to put this in here to check and see, you know, put some force on it. And sure enough, it clicks, and it seems to work perfectly fine. So this is made in the US of A. So I'm not familiar with this particular company, but I think this is actually a pretty decent torque wrench. So after all of that, I said to him, how much you want for it? And everything with him was like, well, yeah, I don't know. What do you think? And then he was like, I don't know. I probably should look it up. And he was going to go over to his computer, literally, and pull it up online to see what he could get for it. And as he was walking off, because I think I had, I said, well, I said, take $10. And he was going to look it up. But then as he was walking along, going back to his office there, he said, yeah, to be honest with you, he said, I'd rather get rid of the whole box with that in it for $25. So he's going back to the office to look this thing up, and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, if this is a decent tool, he's probably going to want more than $20 for it when he comes back anyways. I figured, well, you know, I took a quick look in the box, spotted a couple of things right off the bat, and I went back to him before he could sit down at his desk, and I said, you know what, I'll take the whole thing for $25. I wanted this for $10. That means I paid $15 for this box with the contents. I haven't even looked through everything, but let me show you. Let's go through it together, and I'll show you what I spotted. I have very little interest in this old box. So, oddly enough, I didn't even pay much attention to it at that moment. But now I look at it and it's like, oh, this tape measure, it's a Klein Tools from Chicago. 25-foot tape measure. Nice, big, easy to read numbers on it. It's actually a pretty nice tape measure. And it's a Klein, so it's not a piece of junk. We've got a Stanley Power Lock 3-way blade. Okay. Klein's actually nicer, I think. Couple of tape measures, big whoop. What did I spot in here that I want to show you right off the bat? Oh, here it is. So look at this. I saw this extension, right? And I was like, oh, boy, that's a pretty big one. And then I spotted it's a snap-on. It's a snap-on 1-inch extension. So, I mean, I don't know what that's worth because I'm not a snap-on tool guy. If I had to venture a guess, I bet you that's a pretty pricey little extension right there. How about that? Snap-on crow's foot. Unfortunately, looks like we've just got one size in the whole box. All right, we got some sockets. This one on the end here is a Bonnie, and with the exception of that one, the rest of these are all metric and they're all proto sockets. Here's a Bonnie ratchet. Here's a Williams 1.25" socket. So far, all US made. There's another Bonnie extension. Pretty beat, but wow, this is an old. These are old. That one right there is an old Stephen Walden's. Quite a mixture here. We've got some SK, we got some Stephen Walden, we got some Cornwall, and I see one Husky. Oh, that's nice. Klein Tools nut driver, 11/32. Coast Pro pocket pliers that are not in there. SK Wayne. Wow. That's got to be an early one, huh? Master Mechanic USA nut driver. Another Bonnie socket. Here's an Impact socket USA. That's a beast. Snap-on swivel head socket. Armstrong adapter. Look at this. This is a 1/4-inch drive extension. That's got to be 15, 18 inches long. It's got a part number on it, but I can't see who makes it. That beast. That's a proto. Some decent stuff here. Here's a Bonnie Impact socket. Look at this crow's foot. Unusual. 1 5/8 inch. This is a Lockrite LOC Lockrite, Lockrite USA. Never seen one like that. The rest of this looks like just a bunch of sockets. There's another Bonnie extension. Oh, there's a Bonnie 1/4-inch drive braking bar, which makes me think maybe now that this is a Bonnie extension. There's another snap-on. That's an adapter snap-on. There's a decent-sized braking bar right there. What's that? That's also got that black finish on it. It's got some rust on it, but that's also that Bonnie. All right then. So we got some decent sockets here. I guess I'll put these right in my toolbox, along with this Klein nut driver. I'm gonna add this to my torque wrenches. Oh, so here's my Craftsman torque wrench that I usually go to, and what drives me crazy about it is you've got these little windows right here that you have to look through and see the number, and the problem is that this rubber part right here, it moves. See this space right here? That's not supposed to be there, so I can actually push this down like that, and that actually puts it back in the right position so you can see the windows correctly. So it's a bit of a pain. Then earlier when I was looking around, I had spotted this item, and I trying to figure out what the hell it was, and contemplated making an offer on it, but knew he was going to give me the old, well, what do you want to pay for it? And then I decided after I bought that other item, maybe you know, he'd take my offer of $10. And funny thing was, initially he was like, you know, same thing. Well, it's probably worth. I probably should see how much it's worth or whatever. Blah 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 blah. And I said, well, I think you're gonna have a hard time looking it up online because there's no markings on it. I didn't see anything on here to indicate who makes it or anything like that. So he said, yeah, all right. So he took $10 for it, right? So he thought that this box was something that somebody had made, that it wasn't the original box. I now believe this is the original box, and I do believe I now know what this is. I'm positive I know what it is, and I believe I now know possibly even who made it. This thing intrigued me because I had never seen one before, so I didn't know what it was. So I'm looking at it and I'm like, why do these look like files? Okay, but they're smooth. And look, they've got this curve on the end. All right, and what we've got is we've got several sizes of these suckers. All right, they appear to be completely unmarked by any maker's name. Then we got this one here. All right, a more conventional, what appears to be a scraper, which is what intrigued me about this thing. Thought maybe it had something to do with machinery scraping initially. Oh, and here we go. This one does have a mark on it. Yeah, and it is exactly what I thought. This is marked Mound Tool Company. And here's another one. It was marked, I think this was marked Mound Tool Company, but it, maybe not. Anyways. So what this is this is a bearing scraping set. All right. This is for scraping in the bearing surfaces in old, well, I shouldn't say old, because apparently from what I was reading online, there are still applications where they actually have scraped bearing surfaces. I'm thinking more like in the old days where you would scrape in Babbitt bearings, and that would create these little tiny pockets and fissures that the oil would sit in. So this is a specialized set for working on those types of bearings. It's not tremendously valuable, but being that it's a what appears to be a fairly complete set, it's pretty nice. Definitely worth the $10 I paid for it. But I think it's going to be one of those things I might end up having to sell on the old flea bay there in order to really be sure that I get top dollar for it. Anyways, I thought you guys might find that interesting in case you've never seen one before. Next time you're at a flea market or yard sale or whatever, and you come across a strange looking blade like that looks like a file that has no teeth on it and has a curve to it, just think Mound Tool Company bearing scrapers. Hey, I just sold that scraper set for 35 bucks. Good deal for him and great deal for me.